If Black Lives mattered in America, slavery would not have persisted for 250 years, made legal in every original state by laws and customs that bought and sold black bodies, raped black women, tore apart black families, and perpetuated brutal living conditions, all in the name of profit. If Black Lives mattered in America, white terrorism would have been stopped when the Klan first emerged after the war to end slavery, or in the 1890s when Ida B. Wells documented the thousands of black bodies lynched. Or in the 1920s when Klan membership hit 5 million, or today, when across America there are 72 Klan chapters, 31 neo-Confederate groups, and 100 white nationalist organizations. If Black Lives mattered in America, slavery would not have been replaced by Jim Crow segregation, made legal by our Supreme Court to maintain the systemic subjugation of black lives. Cities all over America would not have become sundown towns, making it illegal for black lives to be seen after dark. And Seattle would not have allowed dozens of neighborhoods to be created that would legally prevent, quote, non-white persons from buying or renting or leasing property. If Black Lives mattered in America, we would not have put the majority of black teachers out of jobs when the Supreme Court finally said segregated schools were not equal in 1954 and closed black schools. If Black Lives mattered in America, our schools would not still be segregated. The top-rated elementary schools in Seattle Public School District today would not be white and wealthy, while Seattle's poor families of color are served by the lowest-ranking schools. If Black Lives mattered in America, black students would not be more than twice as likely to be suspended than their white classmates in Seattle schools, and black children would not be more likely to grow up in poverty. If Black Lives mattered in America, Richard Nixon and his advisors would not have created the Southern strategy to win back the White House for Republicans in 1968. They knew that civil rights had reached many white hearts and minds in the South. They knew they couldn't use the N-word anymore, so they purposely began to talk about law and order, crime and drugs, linking this to black lives and black neighborhoods, despite evidence that drug use is just as prevalent in white neighborhoods. If Black Lives mattered in America, the war on drugs would not have been so effective at creating white fear that it gave birth to the highest incarceration rates in the history of humanity and prison profiteers that will not let go. Today, black men have a 1 in 3 chance of going to prison and are 3 times more likely to be killed by police than white men. If Black Lives mattered in America, there would not be a wealth gap between black lives and white lives. When the Civil War abolished slavery, 4 million black lives, used for generations to create white wealth, would not have been left with nothing. Nothing to show for the labor they had sown in the American soil that would become a world power in just another generation. If Black Lives mattered in America, after 6 generations of passing down wealth since the Civil War, white Americans would not hold an average of 10 times the wealth of the average black family, and this gap would not still be growing. If Black lives mattered in America, Black voting rights would not have been suppressed persistently, legally, violently, and covertly. The 7 Black members of Congress, elected just after slavery was abolished, would not have shrunk over the next 100 years to just 5. And 99 new laws would not have been introduced in 31 states in 2017 alone, designed to make it more difficult for people to vote. I don't mean to leave out American Indian lives. We especially need to make visible the genocide, historic and present, of those native nations who were here when Europeans arrived, whose land and cultures have been and continue to be stolen and trampled, first by ignorance and greed, and now by an unconscious continuation of what qualifies as normal. I also don't mean to leave out Latinx lives or queer lives or other marginalized lives that have not mattered in America. Nor do I mean to lump these together to the point of all lives matter. At the same time, there's been undeniable progress. Legal slavery has ended. Legal segregation has ended. Legal housing discrimination ended. We elected a Black president in 2008 and 55 Black members of Congress in 2018. But this progress has only come from the struggle. The principled arguments written and spoken, taught, preached, and spat, the leadership, the organizing, the movements, the studying, and the placing of bodies at lunch counters, in the line of fire hoses, up against police batons and white terrorism. But while progress has been made, this accumulation of Black lives not mattering has been so long persistent, so completely applied, so vigorously defended, that Black lives not mattering is worked thoroughly into our unconscious minds. By pictures and politicians, by myth and by media. This has created in each of us an unintended, unconscious, and too often unexamined bias. Calling someone a racist distracts us from the deeper truth. In a culture with such pervasive racist outcomes, let's do away with this practice. Instead, we need to recognize the ways that we all serve to keep racism in place. The way out is to continue the struggle. White people, we need to step out in front, to learn, to teach, to call it what it is, to take some of the blows, to tear down the walls that protect white privilege. We also need to step back, to create the space for Black voices, for Black creativity, for the Black brilliance that we routinely block from view with the bias that our white voices need to be heard. And we have to walk beside, to love and to support our Black sisters and brothers, not in colorblindness, but in love, humanity, respect, and recognition that we cannot know what it is truly like to live in a culture surrounded by the message that my life does not matter. The way out, most of all, requires awareness of our long and painful history, of the forces at work to keep the system serving the powerful and the white, of the unconscious bias inside each of us, so that our stumbles, our mistakes, the hurt we still cause on a daily basis can diminish, can be part of our growth, and can become part of the healing.